Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories at this hour. 10 lives have been lost and several others injured as building collapse in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Rivers State government files appeal against High Court ruling restricting access to federal allocation. Authorities in Mozambique restrict social media access in the bid to check opposition-led protest over election results. And details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that 10 persons were killed while 7 others were injured in a building collapse in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, on Thursday morning. A statement from the Oyo State Fire Services Agency disclosed that the incident happened at Jegeda Oluloyo area in Ibadan in Onoara local government area of the state. The statement added that while 10 persons were recovered from the debris, 7 persons were rescued alive, adding that rescue efforts are reported to be ongoing as at the time of filing this report. The police also confirmed the development in a statement saying adequate security has currently been in place in the area to prevent hoodlums from taking over the incident and as well as protect the lives and property of other residents within the area. The Joint Action Committee of the Non-Academic Staff Union and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities will meet with the federal government on Thursday to discuss the ongoing strike. SANU Vice President Abdulsabur Salam confirmed that the union received an official invitation from the government on Wednesday night. The unions began an indefinite strike on Monday due to 4 months' unpaid salaries, leading to a nationwide university shutdown. SANU National President Mohammed Ibrahim stated that 98% of members have complied and they will not return to work until their demands are met. The Rivers State government has filed an appeal against the Federal High Court ruling in Abuja, which barred the Central Bank of Nigeria from disbursing allocations from the Federation accounts to the state. Now, this legal action comes as Governor Siminalayi Fubara reacted to a recent attempt to impeach him by the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Speaker Martin Amawele, reportedly aligned with the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. Commissioner for Information and Communications, Joseph Johnson, confirmed to journalists that the state has appealed the judgment, expressing confidence that the appeal court will overturn the ruling. In her judgment, Justice Joyce Abdul-Malik of the Federal High Court in Abuja ruled that Governor Fubara's presentation of the 2024 budget to only 4 members of the House and River violated the Constitution. She further described Fubara's receipt and distribution of monthly allocations since January as a constitutional anomaly and issued an order restraining the CBN, the Accountant General of the Federation, and banks involved from granting the governors access to funds from the Consolidated Revenue and Federation accounts. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has voiced strong criticism against a recent court order halting financial allocations to Rivers State, warning it could destabilize the state. In a statement released by his media advisor, Paul Ibe, Atiku questioned the rationale behind the judge's decision to issue an injunction while the case is still pending before the Supreme Court. He alleged that certain elements within President Adebola Tinubu's administration had influenced the judgment in an attempt to undermine the authority of the Supreme Court. Atiku commended the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, for summoning judges handling the Rivers State cases, urging that only judges found at fault be disciplined to uphold judiciary's integrity and restore public confidence. And to unpack this, we're joined by a lawyer, Henry Akini. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be on your news.
All right. So let me kick off by asking what your thoughts are on the Federal High Court ruling that the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, should cease allocation to Rivers State.
My personal reaction would be that it's unfortunate, but with respect to the consideration of the Honorable Justice Joyce of the Federal High Court, Abuja, I think that we should have been a little more pragmatic with considering the effect of certain decisions of courts that will be made. Judges are not isolated from society. And again, especially when considering the avoidable and unnecessary orchestrated crisis in the legislature in Rivers State that citizens in this country are quite abreast of, including judges, particularly the Federal High Court. One would have imagined that judges should be aware of the various stages of the various matters in relation to those subject matters in courts, up to the Supreme Court. So I particularly think that that judgment should have been considered otherwise, but with respect to the wisdom of the Honorable Justice Joyce. And I think, again, that we should come to a point where these issues, the remote issues really, in the crisis in Rivers State House of Assembly, should be addressed frontally, I mean, once and for all. And the Nigerian judiciary should be able to be upright and pragmatic in this regard. We can't go the roundabout way that some of these decisions have come about, and then where judges will carefully, selectively look at certain peripheral issues around the crux of the matter, and then make decisions that will leave citizens and supporters of the various leanings to make interpretations and inferences and imply what the courts will not clearly pronounce. So for me, I think it's come to the point where the Nigerian judiciary should make a clear pronouncement with the specific effect of the defection of the former 27 lawmakers in the University House of Assembly. That's the crux of the matter. Well, because when the judge premised the decision on the ground that the governor could not have presented the appropriation bill before the Rivers State House of Assembly consisting of 4 members, then it means that that court was going the roundabout way to have a touch on the central issue of the defection of 27 former law members of the House.
Just to chip in there quickly.
So I think it's really disturbing in my view.
Okay, because of our time, and then I still have a couple of questions for you. You touched on the court ruling, but some persons will say there was another court ruling saying that that lower court does not have the power to adjudicate in that regard. But then let me understand what your thoughts are. We understand the court ruling is being appealed, the one regarding the CBN season allocation to Rivers State. What are your thoughts on how that ruling would turn out?
Without preempting the Court of Appeal, I think I would only speak to the effect that a dissatisfied party to any decision has a right to appeal against that decision. And it's important to understand this. But I think for me, I'm excited to hear that an appeal has already been filed before the registry of the court. And then that should be immediate, especially considering the adverse effect of that decision yesterday on governance in Rivers State. Not just about the governor. This is not a decision that affects the governor or even the politicians in Rivers State, but it's actually an affront against Rivers State entirely. So whether the old woman in my village or the woman in Sangama or anywhere or any part of Rivers State, even public servants, civil servants, children, immunization, access to healthcare, women who are pregnant, how is this going to affect them for them to access maybe antenatal health care? And all children in schools. Because if a state is grounded, this is the first time I must say that a court in Nigeria has actually ordered the restraining allocation of funds to any state. Some mistake this to what happened in Lagos. In the case of Lagos, it wasn't entirely the case of the allocation to the state, but perhaps about local councils and then local government. But to direct that revenue should not be appropriated or allocated to an entire state, we mean grounding this administration in the state, and everything and everybody will have to suffer. So I think we need to look at issues when politicians are ventilating their grievances and pursuing their personal interests in this regard. How is this going to affect the greater proportion of the population that will be affected by a decision? particularly this decision in Rivers State. It's not about the governor, it's not about the politicians, it's not about the contestations to the leadership of the Rivers House of Assembly, but it's about the entire administration and governance in Rivers State, the lives of people who are resident even here. Governance is beyond politics. It is about the welfare of all the citizens in Rivers State. So if projects are to be executed, they could be stalled. If administration can't continue, no subvention, no overhead, then administration will be stalled.
Just to follow your line of thought, Mr. Ekene. Yes, just to follow your line of thought, you talked about, this, court ruling by the Federal High Court, ruling to cease allocation to Rivers State. But some persons have said the governor himself of Rivers State, and that's Governor Siminalayi Fubara, violated 4 existing court orders. What do you make of that?
Well, I am not aware, I am not the spokesperson to the governor. I am not aware of any court judgment that the governor has violated. But again, assuming without conceding that there is a disobedience to any court order, I think our rules, judgment enforcement rules and our legislations are clear as to what should be done where any individual or authority disobeys the order of court. In the case of a governor, not specifically about Sim Fubara, any governor in that regard, if a governor is contemptuous, disobeying any order of court, the rules that could apply, I'm afraid, especially with the provision in the Constitution as to immunity, can you prosecute a governor? I doubt at the moment. So, but to the best of my knowledge, to respond to your question directly, I'm not aware. I think those who are alleging should be able to say what specific decision that the governor has disobeyed. And let us also not sweep aside the conflicting decisions and judgments in all of these matters. So if you have a judgment, Bola, and then there is another judgment and you obey the particular judgment, it is only the other person who considers that other judgment favorable to him that will cry out that you're disobeying that judgment. Because take particularly some of these decisions in Rivers State, there are decisions of court and they're also valid. When you even raise the issue as to whether a lower court had the jurisdiction to entertain a matter, maybe a state high court, that judgment by that state high court is valid until it is set aside by a court of appeal. So it is not by the pronouncement of an individual who says, oh, a high court didn't have jurisdiction to entertain this matter. But if there is a judgment or an order by that state high court, it is valid until a court of appeal so sets it aside. So if anybody who has to comply with that judgment, complies with that judgment, and there's a conflicting judgment elsewhere, and then it didn't comply, he said disobeying. So if it's disobeying judgment A and is complying with judgment B, when and at what point would we clear all of these controversies that conflicting judgments of courts will create deliberately for political interest and political purposes, than just to vilify somebody that is always disobeying orders of court?
Well, indeed, we hope a lasting solution is found between the godfather and his godson, talking about Nyesom Wike and, of course, Sim Fubara. But thank you so much for your insight on the news. Henry Ekene, a lawyer. Many thanks indeed for your insights.
Thank you very much, Bola. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria's Senate has confirmed the nomination of 7 ministerial nominees submitted by President Bola Tinubu for confirmation. And this was after the Senate grilled the nominees on their competences and capacity to serve as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our correspondent, Amadine Oyi, tells us more.
The screening exercise was one many citizens of the country have looked up to. The nominees whose names had been submitted by President Bola Tinubu to the Senate for screening following the recent reshufflement of cabinet ministers. One member of parliament commended the president for attaching portfolios to the names to enable the parliament ask far-reaching questions bordering on the competencies of the nominees.
We have on the floor of this Senate always sought that a president sending nominees to the floor must attach it with the portfolios. Today, we are seeing that the president has started by letting us know in the portfolios of those that will go to the different areas. And that is commendable.
Some of the nominees had time to answer to questions posed by lawmakers in a bid to convince the parliament of their competencies.
The silver lining in leveraging the current FX rate is an opportunity to deepen exports because our goods are currently cheaper for exports and also cheaper for domestic consumption. So it's an opportunity for all of us to buy Nigerian, to support Nigerian businesses and consume what is made in Nigeria. That will create jobs and encourage these businesses and make sure they stay in business.
Missions abroad actually reflect the true magnitude of Nigeria's standing in the Committee of Nations. It is very, very important because this is what will give our nation the much needed respect to carry out diplomatic functions.
Most time when you look at the statistic, because there's no just partial distribution of the poor people, you can't even determine how people are actually captured in your own senatorial zone or in your own ward or in your own community. But by just doing this alone, we cannot distribute materials to the last mile in the country.
After a grueling session, the President of the Senate announced the verdict of the Parliament.
The nominees appeared before the Senate, answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical issues, particularly issues relating to their designated ministries. Thereafter, the Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, approved the nominations of Dr. Nentewa Yilwata, Muhammadu Maigari Dingyadi, Bianca Odinaga Odimogu Ojuku, Right Honorable Yusuf Abdullahi Asa, Idi Mokhtar Maiha, Dr. Jumoke Oduwale, Shuaiba Said Ahmad, PhD, as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole?
With the nominees now confirmed, the next step will be the swearing in by the President so that they can commence their functions and contribute their quota to achieving the objectives of the renewed hope agenda set by the current administration. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The protracted absence of electricity in Yenogwa, the capital of Bayelsa State, is causing widespread complaint among residents due to its crippling effects on the local economy and activity over nearly 4 months. In an interview with News Central's correspondent Austin Ozu, residents are concerned about various issues, including inadequate access to clean drinking water, insecurity, youth unemployment, annual flooding, and poorly constructed road lacking drainage, among other pressing matters. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says power supply has successfully been restored to 7 northern states through its 330 kV Gwaji Transmission Line 1. In a statement on Wednesday, Ndidimba, TCN's General Manager of Public Affairs, confirmed that power was restored at 4:56 p.m. after repairs on the vandalized section of the line were completed. She said restoration of the Apu-Lafia 330 kV transmission line 2 is now also operational, enabling bulk power transmission to Lafia, Makurdi, Jos, Kaduna, Kano, Bauchi, and Gombe states. Major petroleum marketers have assured the public there is adequate petrol supply, urging against panic buying. The Chief Executive Officer of the Major Energy Marketers Association of Nigeria, Meman Clement Isong, confirmed that ample stock is available through Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, with a reliable forecast of future supplies. In response to press inquiries about potential petrol shortage, Meman reassured stakeholders that the regulation allows marketers to secure supplies in advance, mitigating scarcity risks. Despite NNPC's recent petrol price increase, Meman does not anticipate any immediate scarcity. However, some marketers have reported challenges accessing supplies from the Dangote refinery. The Minister of the Federal Capital has flagged off the rehabilitation of the Aguma Palace Road to the Radio Nigeria New Market Road at Gwagwadada Area Council of Abuja. The minister, during the flag-off ceremony, assured residents that President Bola Tinubu will fulfill promises made to them as part of his contract to citizens. Our correspondent, Amadin Oyi, throws more light.
The 8-day of flag-off of key projects within the Federal Capital Territory by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. The ceremony this time took officials of the FCT, including lawmakers and key political stakeholders, to the Gwagwarada area of Abuja. The coordinator of the Satellite Town Development Department of the FCT gave details of the project.
The rehabilitation of Aguma Palace Radio Nigeria New Market Road is to bridge the infrastructural gap in satellite towns and area councils. Your Excellency, permit me to highlight the scope of the projects. Construction of 10-kilometer length roads, site clearance and earthworks, 150-millimeter lateritic sub-base, 150-millimeter thick stone base, 60-millimeter thick asphaltic binder course, 40-millimeter thick asphaltic wearing course, construction of bogs and pipe culverts of different sizes, construction of access road, access slabs and culverts, construction of trapezoidal concrete line drains, and lastly, installation of solar street lights.
The Minister Nyesom Wike assured the residents present that the road will be completed on schedule as requested by President Bola Tinubu.
I told you that Mr. President has directed that whatever you ask, we should give it to you. And today, by the special grace of God, one of the second requests you made is for the construction of this very important 3 segments of the road. And I want to assure you, like the coordinator has said, like the contractor has said, even though the contract agreement says 12 months, you have heard when the contractor said by in 10 months' time that he was going to hand over this road to us.
He also informed them that President Tinubu has approved the provision of water to the area to ease the burden and suffering of residents.
Mr. President has chosen Gwagwarada Area Council as one of the area councils that we are going to supply water to Gwagwarada. There must be water supplied to the entire Gwagwarada Area Council. Are you happy with that? Are you happy with that?
The minister urged the contractors for the project to fulfill their contractual agreement and ensure that the project is finished on time. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Beggars in Abuja have expressed outrage over the Federal Capital Territory Administration's ongoing crackdown on their presence in the city. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike had directed officials to execute a total sanitation of the capital, giving beggars until last Sunday to leave or face arrest. The operation targeting beggars and scavengers began on Monday and is to last for 2 weeks. In response, some beggars, particularly those with disabilities, protested, voicing their concerns under the Arewa Freedom of the Blind Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society Abuja chapter. Awal Al-Hassan criticized the FCTA for failing to engage with them or address their grievances before issuing the eviction order. 2 Nigerian boys trafficked to Ghana who were rescued on Tuesday following the efforts of News Central scheduled to appear in court tomorrow when they will recount their harrowing experience. And speaking with News Central's investigative correspondent Marshall Ononye earlier on Wednesday, the boys shared how their search for greener pastures and aspirations of finding acting roles led them into a situation of enslavement. Daniel and Zil detailed the circumstances that compelled them to travel to Ghana, highlighting dangers of human trafficking and their quest for a better life.
because why I left I didn't leave on my own accord, because I was laid off from my former place of work because I was sick for days. So they laid me off thinking I was not a serious person after bitterly explaining to them what really happened. So the sole purpose of me coming here to Ghana was just to help my mom, to assist my mom, because she's actually a widow and she has nobody. My dad died 3 years ago, so she needed I needed to man up to help the family also. So that was what led to my decision in coming to Ghana. Which after he had paid our transport to Ghana, he had us blindfolded, then brought to the house. Then from day one, we beat him severely and till we find ourselves here today. I'm really, really grateful to New Central and the Ghanaian police for helping us to bringing us to this very place today. I'm really grateful to them, and I pray that when I go back to Nigeria, I'll be able to see something I can do to assist my mom.
The new Immigration Service has announced the launch of a phased contactless passport renewal system set to begin in Canada on November 1st, 2024. Now, this new system allows Nigerians to renew their passport online, greatly reduce the need for in-person visits to NIS offices. The NIS shared the announcement on its official X account. And following the rollouts in Canada, the service will expand to the United Kingdom, United States and Italy on November 15th, and by December 1st, it will be available in Nigeria and other global nations. The Controller General of Nigeria Immigration Service, Kemi Nandap, is assured of improved service delivery to people of the country, especially at the nation's borders with the use of technology. The Controller General was speaking in Jos when he paid a courtesy visit on the Governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mofung, as part of activities to mark the 2024 Controller General of Nigeria Immigration Service Annual Conference. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe, who was at the brief event at the Government House in Jos, reports that the objective of the conference is to develop sustainable strategies towards repositioning the NIS for enhanced national security and economic development. The NIS boss, who is the ECOWAS head of immigration, also spoke on the use of technology in maintaining safer borders, availability and affordability of ECOWAS biometric cards, among others.
Lots of technology. We have the IVS, we have the API PNR, we have our e-gates, we have our PKD, PKI. All these are tools for border management, which has been deployed during this administration. So it's not just an administration where we're just talking, but we make sure that we want to do what we need to do to make Nigeria safe. For NIS as an institution, for NIS as an organization, for NIS as a border governance agency, we assure you that our borders will be safe, our borders are safe, and we're doing everything in our capability and our power to make sure that we ensure that safety.
There's no way of bypassing technology now. If you are living in the current world of today, you must work with technology. So it's welcome developments. We've never doubted your capacity, and we've always believed that you will bring value addition to the service. And so His Excellency.
The Nigerian Institute of Journalism has commissioned a media resource center to help improve the quality of learning at the institution. Educationists and media practitioners at the event emphasized the importance of educational infrastructure in bridging the gap in learning. Our correspondent, Omolola Ololade, tells us more.
It is a known fact that the provision of basic educational infrastructure plays a pivotal role in Nigeria's educational system, including the quality of education, student access, and teacher motivation. This was evident at the donation of a media resource center at the Nigerian Institute of Journalism by the renowned industrialist and philanthropist Dr. Kesintin Adebola Adebutu, popularly known as Baba Ijebu. The commissioning of the 350-seater auditorium was an opportunity for government officials and media professionals to engage in a public discourse about the journalism profession.
It is also important in education. And that's the duty of all of us And that is what Sir Kensington is doing today, stepping in as a partner of government, a partner of institutions in the educational sector to deliver this mighty edifice.
However, veterans in the profession emphasize on the importance of having trained journalists in the profession rather than citizen journalists who may not understand the nitty-gritty of the profession.
Many people who are not trained in journalism who claim to be citizen journalists. They sit in one room and punch one computer and send out messages which they call breaking news. But on close examination, nothing is breaking. Multi-person orchestra who are trained to check and cross-check facts before sending them to the world as news.
Commentators, and they begin to talk and, you know, incite people. Nobody cares about the truth. So I would like all of us here today, those of us who are students, those of us who are teachers, those of us who are consumers of journalism products, that we should take it as a very sacred duty that we should not allow reporting to die.
The provost of the media institution appreciated the donor for his positive contribution, while noting the great impact this will have on learning.
For this great donation, and that the media will always remember him for this capacity building support. Additional super infrastructure for teaching and learning and research, for workshops, for seminars, including executive education, which we intend to do vigorously.
Infrastructure deficit is one of the many challenges facing Nigeria's educational system. As such, the need for both government and critical stakeholders to invest more in this sector cannot be overstated. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
Veteran Nollywood actor Abdulsalam Sonyaolu, popularly known as Charles Oluomo or Agbako, has died at the age of 101 years. President of the Theatre, Arts and Motion Picture Practitioners Association of Nigeria, TAMPAN, Bolaji Amusan, popularly known as Mr. Latin, confirmed Agbako's demise in an Instagram post. Mr. Latin said details of his burial arrangement will be shared at a later date. Born on February 25, 1923, Agbako was, as he was fondly called by movie lovers, was popular within the Yoruba film industry. He was popular for his commanding presence as well as exceptional performances. Thank you for staying with us. Ghana's Supreme Court has overturned a decision that had shut down Parliament just months ahead of elections. Last week, Parliament Speaker Alban Bagbin declared 4 parliamentary seats vacant. The move effectively halted all legislative activity less than 2 months before the country's general election, which is said to be a tight race against a backdrop of economic recovery following a severe financial crisis. The crisis was triggered by a standoff between President Nana Akufo-Addo's ruling New Patriotic Party and the opposition National Democratic Congress, which gained a slim majority after the defection of 4 lawmakers. Malian prosecutors have launched a probe into the alleged attempt by a prison union representative to overthrow the ruling junta. Head of the Prison Guards Union, Commander Dauda Konate, has not been heard from since last week after he criticized the authorities online, his family and the union source said on Monday. Since the military seized power in back-to-back coups in 2020 and 2021, several dissents have been abducted and detained incommunicado before being brought before a court or eventually released. The National Anti-Cybercriminal Unit's prosecutor, in a statement, cited a recording gone viral on social media, whose author allegedly is Commander Dauda Konate. Mozambique has restricted access to social media for the second time in a week as opposition leaders called for nationwide strikes over a disputed presidential election. According to a global internet watchdog, police presence was heightened, particularly in two northern cities where demonstrations were beginning to unfold on Thursday. This marks the third wave of protests since the ruling Frelimo party claimed victory in the October 9 election, and a result opposition parties and observers alleged was marred by irregularities. Access to popular social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Facebook and Instagram, frequently used by opposition leader Benicio Mondlane to mobilize supporters, were blocked. The restrictions follow a temporary internet blackout imposed last Friday, just a day after the Electoral Commission declared election result and sparking protests that were met with a forceful crackdown. "95 people are dead and many remain missing after huge downpours in Valencia and across eastern Spain unleashed apocalyptic scenes. Rescue workers began a huge response yesterday after major flash floods surged through towns and villages. One British man died following a dramatic rescue in Andalusia after he developed hypothermia and suffered several cardiac arrests. Despite dozens of deaths and many more people known to be trapped in badly flood-hit areas, local officials are holding out hope that rescuers can reach those in need. Emiliano Garcia, the president of the Castilla-La Mancha communities, said parts of Letor, a village in the jurisdiction, is not accessible to crews at the moment. And for more on this, we're joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagan. Afia, just bring us up to speed with the latest from the scene of flash floods in Spain.
Well, in the past 10 minutes, we've just had an update from the authorities in Spain, who are now saying that the death toll stands at 140 people. They also released some pretty dramatic footage of a baby being rescued by a helicopter, by firefighters using helicopter equipment to try and rescue people. And that was deployed from other regions in Spain who sent those equipment and those people to Valencia because of the gravity of the situation. So you had these incredible storms that have been happening since Tuesday, and that sent torrents of water flooding through the streets and bringing with it mud and landslides also. Now, this is the worst storms I think that this part of the world, Valencia particularly, has ever seen. And the devastation there, the Prime Minister has been addressing it as well, saying that he will not leave the people of Valencia behind, will not let them down, and will be releasing funds to try and help the cleanup operation, which, as you can see from these pictures, is going to be absolutely huge.
Well, aside the rescue efforts by firefighters, what has been the reaction to the flooding?
Well, as the flooding was happening, people couldn't get through to emergency services, so they were calling TV and radio stations asking for help, asking for people to come and help them, to help save relatives and loved ones. 1,000 soldiers from Spain's emergency response unit has also been deployed to local areas. The mayor of a town of UTL, a town in Valencia called Ricardo Gabelon, said, this is a quote from him, "Yesterday was the worst day of my life. We were trapped like rats. Cars and trash containers were flowing down the streets." And like I said, rescue personnel, 1,000 soldiers from Spain's emergency response unit have been sent to this area of Valencia to coordinate the cleanup effort. And the Prime Minister of Spain speaking today, saying that, every effort will be put forward to make sure that this area of Valencia can be rebuilt.
Well, there are concerns as to if this is an act of God or an act of man. What would you say the role climate change has played in the flooding?
Look, there's absolutely no doubt that climate change has played a huge part in this natural disaster. Now, this rainfall in the region, this is the worst rainfall in the region of Valencia. It's due to a weather phenomenon called DANA, and that's where there's a pool of colder air higher up in the atmosphere and warm, moisture air laden beneath it, and the air becomes unstable, and that leads to deeper storm clouds and more intense rainstorms. And the reason why you have the warm, moist air at the bottom is because the water is warmer, and the water is warmer because of climate change. So that's a direct correlation between climate change and these storms being more intense. Look at what happened recently with Storm Milton and Storm Helene in America. The reason why those storms were so intense and they were superstorms because the sea was warmer. Earlier on this week, we've had storms in the Philippines as well. All these things are because the earth is warmer, and the earth is warmer because of climate change, because of global warming, and that is man-made. And when you combine that with a usual storm season, what happens is things like this. You have superstorms, you have super floods that we are not used to having. And it's the combination of the water being warmer because of climate change, which is man-made, and natural things happening, natural storms happening. And together we get these very, very intense natural disasters.
Well, thank you so much for bringing context to this. Afia Hagen, our international correspondent. Many thanks indeed. In the world of sport, the Nigeria Premier Football League has restored the licenses of newly registered players of 7 clubs from the 9 defaulters. The clubs are Enyimba, Plateau United, El Kanemi Warriors, Bayelsa United, Lobby Stars, Akwa United, and Heartland. The NPFL Chief Operating Officer, Davison Owumi, disclosed this in a statement sent to the clubs. Owumi commended the clubs for complying swiftly with the requirements, which will enable them play to their full strength. The NPFL pointed out that Akwa United's licenses were restored on directive of the NFF, pending ongoing further investigation into their case. Abia Warriors, Katsina United, and Kwara United are yet to comply with the directives. Real Madrid's away match at Valencia in La Liga this weekend was postponed on Thursday by the Spanish Football Federation due to floods that have killed more than 95 people. Villarreal's home match against Rayo Vallecano was also suspended after devastating flash floods in eastern Spain. La Liga asked the Spanish Football Federation to postpone Valencia and Villarreal's matches on Saturday, as well as 3 second division games involving teams from affected areas. The Federation had already postponed several midweek Copa del Rey first round matches, including Valencia's game against Parla Escuela. A moment of silence for the flood victims will be held at matches this weekend in Spain, including league leaders Barcelona's Catalan derby against Espanyol on Sunday. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. 10 lives have been lost and several others injured as building collapsed in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. The Rivers State government files appeal against High Court ruling restricting access to federal allocation. Authorities in Mozambique restrict social media access in the bid to check opposition-led protest over election results. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.